This episode is brought to you by Forney Industries, official sponsor of Faction 46 and Nice Motorsports Truck Series teams. Forney offers versatile welding and plasma cutting machines, along with a full line of metalworking accessories for beginners, do-it-yourselfers, and professionals. Forney has everything you need for your next metalworking project. Shop for these top-of-the-line products at forneyInd.com. That's FORNEYIND.com, or at an authorized Forney dealer near you. Eric Estep here. One of my favorite parts of being a NASCAR fan is collecting diecasts. It's how I got my start on YouTube, actually. To me, a room is not complete until it features shelves of NASCAR diecast cars. It's as good a time as ever to continue your collection or begin an all-new one by pre-ordering your favorite driver's 2022 next-gen diecast at LionelRacing.com or at any authorized Lionel retailer. Lionel is the official diecast of NASCAR, and don't miss Lionel Racing's NASCAR Authentics diecasts at a Walmart or Target near you. Not only is Lionel the official diecast of NASCAR, but they're also official supporters of the Out of the Groove podcast network. So what are you waiting for? Head to LionelRacing.com to order your favorite driver's 2022 diecast.
Hey, it's your host, Rick Houston, and in this episode, we sit down again with Dr. Daniel Pierce, who is a professor at the University of North Carolina at Asheville. We talked to him several episodes ago about the connections between moonshine and motorsports, but I wanted to sit back down with him and discuss just everything that has happened in the Western North Carolina area in general, and in particular the Asheville area that was hit so hard by flooding connected to Hurricane Helene. He was actually out of town, so he didn't personally experience any of it, but several of his friends and family, including his mother, who is in her 90s, they went through it all. And Dr. Pierce and I, we talk about that. We talk about the devastation, but we also talk about the resilience of the people in the area. And this is not an episode that I believe that you're going to enjoy, but I hope that it's one that makes you think. Think about what you can do for the people who were impacted so severely by this storm, not only in North Carolina, but also in East Tennessee, in South Carolina, in Georgia, and of course in Florida, that was hit not only with Helene, but also Milton recently. So think about what you can do to help out in this situation, whether it be donations, financial, or whatever. I know that you probably don't have a helicopter like Greg Biffle, but you can help. However small a help it is, you can still help. So please consider that as you listen to this conversation with Dr. Pierce. Well, Dr. Pierce, first of all, number one, I'm glad you're okay in the midst of all the everything that's happened in your neck of the woods in the past several weeks. But you did tell me that you took a trip at just the perfect time.
Yeah, we've been planning this. I retired at the end of June, and so this was a big retirement trip, and I love southern Utah. So when the 30 inches of rain hit us, I was in the middle of the desert. So
Wow.
I missed that. And actually, by the time we got back home, we had power and water. So
Okay.
I feel fortunate and a bit guilty too for not being around at the worst, for sure.
Yeah. You did tell me that you had some, I guess, friends and family impacted, I think.
Yes. Well, my mother's here. My 98-year-old mother, who still lives alone, was here, and she, it's really an interesting thing. You know, tragedies like this tell you a lot about people. And my mother is an amazing person, and people were. Ken and friends were bombarding me with, how's your mother? How's your mother? How's your mother? And she said, I'm fine. In fact, this has been energizing for me. And so I've had to use resources I hadn't had to use since the Depression, when she
Yeah.
lived. But So she is just now getting electricity and water and
Wow.
all that. But it's an amazing story with her. Just her neighborhood just really came together and supported one another, and we're forever grateful for folks on Waverly Court in East Asheville, the way that they supported my mother, and she supported them. I mean, it's a pretty amazing story. And then I have a son who is a carpenter here, um, but he has taken on the role. He goes to church in Swannanoa, and folks who've been following the news know that Swannanoa was probably the hardest hit area, and so their church is right in the middle of Swannanoa, and the church was fine, although it was barely above the high water mark. But he's taken on the role of really heading up their relief efforts in that community, and so it's been a he's been energized by that. He's kind of that personality that loves to help, although it's been really tough. A lot of the things that he's seen and had to deal with in that role. So it's you know, coming back to this place, it was just a strange place going around because I mean, you don't think about that much about, okay, what's the high water mark? But turns out the high water mark is much higher than we ever thought it would be, and just places that you just never imagine would flood. And obviously the people that own those properties or lived in those places um, didn't imagine that either. And so it's just uh, unprecedented, to say the least.
What kinds of things have you seen since you've been back? I mean, uh, if you were gone for, I guess, a couple of weeks, at least there was a little bit of recovery done by the time that you came back, but the recovery in your area is going to take a while. So,
It, it,
just how bad was it?
well, it's a strange experience driving around the area because you can drive, because of the terrain. We live on a ridge, and you can drive through our neighborhood, and it doesn't look like much has happened. The one thing you do see everywhere, doesn't matter where, are piles of debris
Right.
because there's so many trees down, so many limbs down um, in places, and people have piled those up on the side of the road, and who knows how long that'll be before all that's clear. So that's a constant reminder in every neighborhood, in every area of Buncombe County for sure, and well, most of Western North Carolina. Uh, but again, you can drive around and not and it not seem like it's that bad until you hit an area that was relatively low. Um, for instance, and well, along any of the rivers, any of the creeks, just a devastation through. We live in Black Mountain, and Flat Creek Road, which goes between Black Mountain and Montreat. You just drive up that road, and it's just, there were a number of trailers, and unfortunately, one of the things that you see is that a lot of trailer parks are located in low-lying areas, and so there's just devastation all up and down Flat Creek, and again, places you just never imagined that would have water, and so just a wall of water came down from Montreat down Flat Creek into Black Mountain there, and so that's something. Then the Swananoa River just you drive along the where you can see the river. It's just been the channel's just been gouged out, and I went down into McDowell County down the mountain and Old Fort. Just of course they're right at the foot of the mountain, and just a wall of water came through there off of Mill Creek and just right through the middle of town. And a good friend, Rowan Bishop, who works for Department of Cultural Resources and heads up the Mountain Gateway Museum. Her they had a really neat old home, which was their administrative offices, and it's just been obliterated. I mean, totally
I,
washed foundation and just huge holes in the side of it, and so it's just a total loss.
I talked to her for the podcast.
Well,
Yeah,
I really
yeah,
feel for Roseanne because she's poured a lot into that place and just,
yeah.
you know, and just why,
Wow.
and I feel for Old Fort and places like that. And Swannanoa is the same way. There were communities that were hard hit by industrial losses, plants shutting down and over the years, and both had really kind of discovered an identity and were really growing and starting to thrive. And then this has been a big setback. So, that's sad to see places that had worked so hard
Yeah.
to to build something good and then have all that wiped out in a very short period of time.
You were talking about your mom being 98 years old and kind of being resourceful and hanging and hanging tough through the entire scenario. What is it about people in your area? We talked the last time about moonshine and motorsports and the resourcefulness that they have in doing the things that they did, but that's in that specific area. But in general, people in that area, mountain folk, they seem to be able to take care of things. And what is it about people in your area who can take care of themselves in a situation like that?
Well, I think part of it, and I think it's probably weakened a bit, but it's something
Yeah,
that's born of hard living. I was reading something the other day, and it says, why is it that we only seem to really learn things, through going through hard circumstances, and I thought about that as a parent a lot, about trying to protect our kids, and keep anything bad. But then we think about our own lives and about how those tough times have shaped us. And I think that's true for the people of Appalachia, is that the tough times shape you. You had to be, one, resilient. You had to be willing to, pick yourself up, when you got knocked down, because that was going to happen to most people. And at the same time, where you have to be independent and, have that inner strength in yourself, you also are dependent on community. And I think that's where, a lot of places have built these strong community ties that help. And it's funny because we live in such an era that is so contentious and so divided, but
yeah,
but you put people in a circumstance like this, and that person that's so difficult and contentious and everything is going to be the first one,
yeah.
come to your door with his chainsaw to cut the tree off your roof or whatever. So it is kind of a unique thing, but I think it's born of that history of having to deal with tough times and having those inner resources, but also a strong community to bounce back.
You were talking about your son taking part and taking a leadership role in some of the recovery efforts. How old is he?
He is just turned 30.
Okay, all right. Well, my son, I've got two sons, and it is so it's different to see them starting to take on kind of adult leadership roles and kind of that kind of thing. So, what's it like for you to see your son taking on that critical a role in
Yeah,
helping
that
bring
that
that area back?
well, I try not to have much ego as a parent because you never know what's going
Yeah,
to
yeah,
happen,
yeah, yeah.
or how things can change. But I'm proud of all my kids, and I think especially because all four of my kids I think have a heart for people and really care. And Sully is his name, and uh, he feels things very deeply in many
Yeah.
ways,
Yeah.
and. I worry a bit about him because he does, but he is he's all about giving, and that, and I couldn't be prouder. I mean, you can talk about your kid's success, and and this is a kid who had a lot of athletic success, had a lot of academic success. But and I've loved watching him do some really cool things, but I've never been prouder of him than I have been in what he's done in working in these relief efforts, because it shows a lot of character there.
All right, good deal. Anything else that you can think of? Anything in particular?
Well, just keep praying for the people of Western North Carolina. It's the further you get away from these things, it's easy to forget. But and support in any way that you can. This is going to be a long time comeback from this, because of again, it's just unimaginable just to come back and see this. It's just unimaginable, that it was, the devastation that we've seen. So, one thing I do want to take one point of privilege. Last time I was on your podcast, Rick, and I watched it, I was horrified to see that I kept calling Wilkes County Dawson County, and of course, and I wanted to apologize to the fine folks in Wilkes County. There are a lot of similarities between Wilkes County, North Carolina, and Dawson County, Georgia. But I kept, and it was one of those senior moments.
Well, I tell you what, if you the next time you go through Wilkes County, don't mention that to anybody.
I don't know. I may need to go on an apology tour to Wilkes County and repair some relationships.
Yeah, because Wilkes County takes their moonshine stories serious, and they
very
don't
serious.
want Dawson County. They don't want Dawson County getting any kind of credit, none
No.
whatsoever.
And I apologize for giving them undue credit.
All right, man. Thank you very much. I
Good
do
talking
appreciate
with
your time. All right, man.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
As I think about this interview with Dr. Pierce, one of the things that's going to come away in a big way for me personally is just the thought of his mom in her 90s dealing with this storm. And according to him, she really didn't come away with any real ill effects, but she still dealt with it. And that is something that's really to be admired. Now, who is that person for you? Whether it's in the storm or whatever, who is that rock for you? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe. And also, again, think about what you can do to help the people who have been so impacted by the recent hurricanes in the Southeast. Thanks a lot, and we'll be back with another episode soon.